Hola, bienvenidos a esta clase. Hoy lo que vamos a ver es Future Tense and Predictions and Statements of Facts. Recuerden que estas son clases de inglés específicamente para el grado de noveno de colegio. Entonces empecemos. Como dije, esta clase va a ser de Future Tense, Predictions of Future and Statements of Fact, pero primero tenemos que ver un poquito de lo que es Future Tense porque es lo que vamos a utilizar principalmente para hacer estas oraciones. Entonces, the simple future tense is used when we want to convey an action that will happen in the future. Okay, so it's not something that has already happened. It's not something that's happening right now. It's only things that will happen in the future. Some examples are, he will be a good lawyer. I'm going to take cooking lessons. I am going to the supermarket, and we will take the dog to the park tomorrow. So you can see all of these are things that have not happened yet. They are things that could happen in the future. So when making sentences with the simple future tense, there are two main ways that we're going to use and that we can use to make this. The main difference is that in one way, we will use the word will, and for the other way, we will use going to. So we're going to see how to make the sentences and what formulas to follow. So let's start with the word will. So we're going to see how to make affirmative sentences for now. In future lessons, we're going to see this a little bit more in depth in how to build sentences in negative and questions and etc. But for now, we're going to see the affirmative. So the affirmative, how do we make them with will for simple future tense? What we're going to do is we're going to take the subject first, then we will add the word will, and lastly, we add the verb that we need. It can be any verb that we need to make the sentence, but the key is that we need to leave the verb in the root form, right? So subject plus will plus the main verb. An example would be, he will call. So he is the subject. Then we have the word will, and then call is the main verb, right? That's the root form. You see, that's not calling. It's not called with ed. It's just call. Then we have she will help me, and that is she, subject, then the word will, and help would be the main verb. Now, how to make sentences with going to? Again, the affirmative ones for now. So we take the subject. We're going to add the verb to be, and this verb depends on the subject, right? As usual, if you have he, she, or is, he, she, or it, you will write is. If you have we and they, then you write are. And if you have I, you will write am, right? Then you add going to. And lastly, you add the main verb. And just as we did with will, we add the verb in the same way. So we add the root form. So we have he is going to call. He is the subject. Is the verb to be. Going to. And then lastly, the main verb, call. Same thing. She's going to help me. She is the subject. The apostrophe S here is representing the is. That's the verb to be. Then going to. And then help would be the main verb. So how to know which of this to use when you're making a sentence? Well, they're actually very similar. Going to and will, they're very similar. And in a lot of times, they can be used interchangeably, meaning that if you use either of them, it's okay. The sentence would be correct. However, usually there is a way to use it that is a little bit more exact and more accurate. And that is, if we're talking about plans, things that we have already decided, that we have scheduled, anything that we have set, that would be using going to, right? And then when it's something that we just decided at the moment, like let's say you're talking to someone and you at that moment decide that you're going to do something. So you tell that person, I will do this. That is, as I said, will. We usually use will for things that we just thought or decided at the moment. But again, a lot of the times, either or, it doesn't matter which one you use, it still will be correct. So here are some more examples of both sentences with will and with going to. My mom will help me with my homework. She is going to finish high school this year. He will win the contest. He is going to give a speech. I will buy it once I get paid. My dad is going to play the game with us. So now we go into the part of predictions and statements of fact. So the reason why I taught you how to use simple future tense is because to make these sentences, we mostly use that tense. So what are predictions and statements of fact? So these are used when we want to talk about something that we think or suspect will happen, but we're not actually sure. And why are we sure? Well, because we're talking about the future, right? None of us have the ability to see into the future, and we cannot know for a fact the things that are going to happen. But sometimes we can base our ideas on evidence. Let's see what I mean with this. Okay, first we're going to review two examples. So we have, it will probably snow early this year. It is already getting cold. And that board seems loose. Be careful or you're going to fall. So let's analyze first what is a fact. A fact is a statement that can be verified. You can gather evidence and prove that this statement is true. So an example would be a dog is a mammal. Okay, we know that according to science, there are a lot of ways to know that a dog is a mammal. So you can analyze the dog and collect evidence and see how he behaves and how he acts, how he does this, how he does that. And you can come to the conclusion, all of these things are things that mammals do. So a dog is a mammal. Or for example, my room has a window, right? This is something that's very easily verifiable. You can show this person a picture of your window, you can take them to your room, and the window is going to be there, right? These are facts, things that are 100% true. And as it says here, in both of these examples, one can check if this statement is true or not. The first one according to science, and the second one is just pissing in the place. But before we know that something is a fact, we usually make a hypothesis or a prediction. So what does this mean? It means that we analyze the situation and think about what we are seeing. And that's when we can use the future tense to explain the prediction that we just thought of, what we think it's going to happen. So one of the examples that we just mentioned is, it will probably snow early this year. It is already getting cold. So in this case, our evidence is that it is already getting cold. Like it's really cold, and we know that winter is cold. And so our prediction is, if right now it's getting cold, then it will snow earlier this year. We don't know this for a fact because it has not happened, but we can predict it because we're gathering evidence that solidifies our hypothesis, right? So again, this is still not something that's going to be a fact. We don't know it until it happens. Perhaps we're right, perhaps we're wrong, but we can make this prediction. Another one, the other example, that board seems loose. Be careful or you're going to fall. So your evidence is that you see that this person is walking on something that is not solid or stable. That is your fact, that is your evidence. The board seems loose. And you know that if you apply weight to it, the board might break or might fall. And if that person is standing on that, there's a possibility that that person also falls. So that part is our prediction, right? The evidence, the board is loose. And the prediction is that they're going to fall. And that's why you tell them to be careful. So with statements of facts, we can also use them to make sentences about the future with more certainty. And this is actually used a lot of the times when talking about specific topics in professional settings. So, for example, if this professional is talking about the climate crisis, he could say, global warming will continue to rise over the next decade. So, you know that this professional, he does not see the future, right? But he has studied a lot. He has studied global warming. He knows the weather, the climate. He knows the science and all the studies of the past few years. And he knows if things continue to happen how they're happening right now, this is what could happen in the future. So he says global warming will continue to rise. And he says it with certainty, right? So that's a statement of fact. But still, it's not a fact because he is not seeing the future. He's just predicting something, right? Or we could say the use of AI is going to be fully implemented in businesses through the next few years. So AI, artificial intelligence, that's all people talk about right now. It's very, very on theme for this year. And a professional in technology, he knows that even though he doesn't see the future, he knows that because it's getting so much more popular, it's going to be like to become even bigger in the next few years. And again, he doesn't know this for a fact, but he can make a prediction based on his knowledge and of the evidence of the past few years. And here are some examples of that. We have his team has scored more goals. They are going to win the competition. By 2015, there will not be enough money to give out pensions to most of the population. Your surgery went really well. You will recover quickly. John was buying engagement rings. He's probably going to propose to his girlfriend. You have been a top performer many times this year. You will probably get promoted. And the evidence of his crime is too solid. He will probably get convicted. Y eso fue la clase de hoy. Espero que hayan entendido todo bien y que pasen un excelente día o noche. Y nos vemos en la próxima clase.